Good evening and welcome to the Hairenik Media Newscast, bringing you the latest headlines from the homeland and the region, along with community news and more. Tensions are rapidly escalating in Armenia as the country enters a volatile pre-election period marked by rising political pressure, targeted arrests, and growing fear among opposition voices. What began as a crackdown on political parties and civil activists has now widened significantly, reaching elected officials and senior clergy alike. In recent weeks, authorities have increasingly targeted those seen as critical of the government, in moves widely interpreted as efforts to stifle dissent. Even the historically influential Armenian Apostolic Church has come under fire, after several of its clergy members publicly expressed disagreement with government policies or took part in opposition rallies. Today, the pressure reached a new and alarming peak. Masked officers from Armenia's special services stormed Gyumri City Hall and arrested the city's mayor Vardan Gugasyan and 23 of his supporters. The arrest, which occurred without a clear public explanation, has drawn sharp criticism from human rights groups and political observers. Many analysts view it as part of a broader attempt by the government to intimidate elected officials and consolidate control over local governance. As fears over shrinking democratic space grow, the crackdown has now extended even further into the heart of Armenia's spiritual life. Relations between the government and the Armenian Apostolic Church have sharply deteriorated following the arrest of senior clergy, including Bishop Mkrtich Prosyan, the head of the Aragadzotsan Diocese. A Yerevan court has ordered a 2-month detention for Bishop Prosyan, who faces charges of coercing political activity, accusations his lawyers reject as entirely politically driven. His arrest follows a sweeping operation just a day earlier, during which 12 priests and church staff members were detained in coordinated raids across the country. The Armenian Church has publicly condemned the arrests, labeling them a blatant crackdown on religious dissent, as anti-government protests grow and international concern continues to rise. Concerns over judicial impartiality are also growing, as Judge Karen Farhoyan, who ordered Bishop Prosyan's detention, currently presides over the case of Archbishop Bagrat Galestanian. Government officials have described the detained clergy as part of a so-called criminal oligarchic network, a claim church supporters dismiss as an intimidation tactic aimed at discrediting and weakening the church's civic role. In a strongly worded statement, the Mother See of Holy Etchmiadzin, the spiritual headquarters of the Armenian Apostolic Church, accused the government of launching a deliberate campaign to weaken and dismantle the church's influence. It described the clergy arrests as an illegal criminal pursuit, holding Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan's administration directly responsible. The church also called on law enforcement and judicial bodies to uphold the law and resist alleged political pressure from officials abusing their power. The government's campaign has now widened beyond the church, with legal, military, and business figures also being targeted, raising deeper concerns over political motives. Attorney Alexander Kochubayev was detained at the Shangavit court under unclear circumstances while attending proceedings involving Archbishop Galestanian and other defendants. Meanwhile, Ashot Yergat Minasyan, a decorated Artsakh war commander and longtime critic of the government, was sentenced to 2 years in prison on weapons charges, which many see as politically motivated. Businessman Samvel Karapetyan remains in custody despite a court ruling deeming his initial detention unlawful. Authorities have since brought new money laundering charges against him, further fueling accusations of selective justice. The Bureau of the Armenian Revolutionary Federation issued a statement regarding the recent developments in Armenia. In light of the attacks, persecutions, and anti-national actions carried out by the authorities of the Republic of Armenia against the Holy Armenian Apostolic Church, the Bureau stated that it is absolutely unacceptable for the architect of these actions to receive any special attention from His Holiness Aram I Catholicos of the Great House of Cilicia, a situation, the Bureau said, has justly provoked outrage among Armenians both in the diaspora and in the homeland. The Bureau asserted that the events in the homeland constitute a deliberate attack not only on the Armenian Church, but also on the entire faithful Armenian people, their identity, and their national character, emphasizing that this should not be viewed merely as a church-state conflict. Citing the recent arrests of high-ranking clergy and the reprehensible targeting of the church by Armenian authorities, the Bureau stressed the urgent need for joint action by the Catholicosates of the Armenian Apostolic Church to safeguard the church, which it described as an exceptional national value in the life of the Armenian people. The ARF Bureau called for close cooperation between the two Catholicosates, along with the united and unwavering support of the Armenian people, to protect the church from what it described as destructive internal and external attacks aimed at undermining and degrading the Armenian national identity. The Catholicosate of the Great House of Cilicia issued a statement reaffirming Catholicos Aram I's condemnation of the clergy arrests, emphasizing his efforts to ease tensions and clarifying that Archbishop Shahan Sarkisyan was tasked with conveying these concerns to Prime Minister Pashinyan and other officials. While calling for a swift resolution to the conflict, the Catholicosate stressed the importance of maintaining strong ties between the state and the church for Armenia's well-being. Diocesan heads of the Armenian Apostolic Church in North America have issued a joint statement voicing concern over the recent arrests of clergy in Armenia. Archbishop Hovnan Derderyan, Bishop Mesrop Barsamyan, and Bishop Abgar Hovakimyan, representing the Western, Eastern, and Canadian dioceses, urged the Armenian government to uphold justice and due process while reaffirming their support for Catholicos Karekin II and the Church's independence during this critical time. During a U.S. meeting with Rabbi Arthur Schneier, Allah Shukur Pashazadeh, chairman of the Caucasus Muslims Board, criticized the Armenian Apostolic Church and the Armenian diaspora, accusing them of blocking peace efforts between Armenia and Azerbaijan. He also claimed Azerbaijan plans to restore all religious sites in Artsakh, including Armenian heritage, statements contradicted by ongoing destruction and distortion of Armenian churches and monuments. In a meeting with UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, Pashazadeh accused the Armenian Church of promoting revanchism and destructive propaganda. The Armenian Apostolic Church responded by condemning Pashazadeh as a disseminator of Azerbaijani disinformation and lies, rejecting his denial of the Armenian people's centuries-old cultural and spiritual legacy. Artsakh State Minister Nejde Iskenderian revealed that over 20,000 displaced Artsakh Armenians have left Armenia since last year, accusing Yerevan's authorities of covertly pushing them out. He stressed that keeping a strong Artsakh Armenian community in Armenia is crucial to maintaining international focus on Artsakh, and expressed hope that future, more state-oriented leadership could revive efforts for their collective return. Armenian Foreign Minister Ararat Mirzoyan has rejected Azerbaijan's demand for constitutional amendments as a precondition for peace. He said constitutional reform is planned but unrelated to territorial issues raised by Baku, and a referendum will follow the next elections. Meanwhile, Azerbaijani Foreign Minister Ceyhun Bayramov reiterated that removing such claims remains essential for a peace deal and called for shutting down OSCE institutions like the Minsk Group, arguing they are no longer relevant. At the same time, Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan has escalated rhetoric about transitioning from a third republic to a fourth republic, framing the change as peace-based, which observers say signals internal momentum for constitutional change despite official denials. Meanwhile, uncertainty surrounds the U.S.-brokered Trump Road transit route, which grants Azerbaijan access to Nakhichevan through southern Armenia. Mirzoyan says technical details are still being negotiated with the U.S., even as critics argue Baku has already secured its key demand while Armenia's gains remain vague. In Farming Hills, Michigan, the Armenian National Committee of Michigan hosted an event to raise awareness and support for the Armenian Legal Center, a key advocate for Armenian prisoners of war in international courts. ANC Michigan Zovinar Hamakordzian opened the event, emphasizing the vital role of legislative advocacy. Keynote speakers include Ken Hachikian, president of the Armenian Legislative Center, and Siranush Sahakyan, executive director of the center and president of the International Comparative Law Center. Hachikian stressed the urgent need to continue legal efforts for the release of Armenian detainees held in Azerbaijan. Human rights attorney Siranush Sahakyan detailed the harsh conditions prisoners face, including restricted humanitarian access and denied consular visits, violations condemned by the EU. Despite recent international agreements falling short, legal actions against Azerbaijani officials for rights violations are ongoing. In the heart of New York City, the Armenian community came together for an evening of art, music, and memory, all in support of Artsakh's artists and the ongoing work of Hairenik media. On October 10th, St. Illuminator's Cathedral opened its doors for a special fundraiser, a silent auction and concert organized by the AYF, Hamaskayin, and ACAA of New York and New Jersey. The event featured a moving exhibit of artwork curated by Artsakh Hamaskayin director Hemine Avagyan. Many of the pieces were created by Artsakh artists during or after the 2023 Artsakh Exodus, capturing beauty, loss, resilience, and hope. St. Illuminator's pastor, Reverend Father Mesro Blakisyan, opened the evening with prayer and reflection, reminding the audience to keep Artsakh alive in their hearts, even when the world urges them to forget. Following the auction, Anet Jivelekyan, speaking on behalf of the organizing committee, expressed gratitude to supporters, proudly announcing that every single painting had been sold. Soulful performances by war veteran and rising artist Artur Khachens moved the crowd with original and traditional songs, while a stirring dance by Angelica Avenesian of the Artsakh Dance Ensemble lifted spirits. In a touching moment, a young artist's clay sculpture, a symbolic door to Shushi, was gifted to the church, bearing the message, "Let the doors of Shushi open again." As curator Hemine Avagyan said, "When all roads home are closed, art becomes the path." That night, it led straight through the heart of the diaspora. The evening closed with communal singing, a moving reminder that even in exile, Artsakh lives on through culture, memory, and unity. And finally, we turn to the heart of Washington, D.C., at the Ronald Reagan Building and International Trade Center, where on October 11, the Armenian National Committee of America Eastern Region held its 19th annual gala. The event united over 200 community leaders, elected officials, and advocates for an evening of purpose, unity, and dedication to the Armenian cause. More than a celebration, the gala raised over $300,000 to support grassroots civic engagement, youth leadership, and advocacy for Armenian security and justice for Artsakh. Thanks in large part to the legacy sponsorship from the Mangikian family, the evening highlighted the strength and unity of the Armenian American community across 31 eastern states. The program featured special recognitions, including honors for the Congressional Armenian Caucus, philanthropist Dean Shahinian, the Lemkin Institute, lifelong advocates Garo Armenian and Paul Jamushian, and this year's youth leaders. Serving as Master of Ceremonies was Dr. Robert Krikorian, a historian, Artsakh war veteran, and recently retired U.S. State Department official, whose decades of service brought both experience and inspiration to the evening. Emma Soghomonian opened the evening with moving renditions of the U.S., Armenian, and Artsakh national anthems, followed by a moment of silence led by Dr. Krikorian in honor of the victims of the Artsakh genocide and those who died defending the homeland. In his opening remarks, Dr. Krikorian called Armenia's independence nothing short of remarkable, highlighting its fragile position and emphasizing the vital role of the diaspora as Armenia's second army.
It is really nothing short of remarkable that Armenia even exists as an independent country. We often forget that Armenian independence was not a foregone conclusion in the last years of the Soviet Union. Many people thought it was impossible, and some even thought it unwise, because Armenia could never stand on its own, surrounded as it was by enemies. Indeed, when viewed through the lenses of history and geopolitics, it is hard to avoid the conclusion that logically, Armenia should not exist. It has been and continues to be a thorn in the sides of the great powers, regional powers, and even its neighbors. And when I speak of Armenia, I am referring to Artsakh as well, because Artsakh is Armenia. Armenia stands alone in the world, except for us. As my friend Aram Hamparian has characterized it, the diaspora is Armenia's second army. It is a force multiplier that helps level an extremely lopsided playing field. This is why we are gathered here tonight. We are here to recognize the vital and indispensable work of raising awareness and advocating for Armenian issues.
ANCA Eastern Region Chair Dr. Artsakh called for deeper political engagement, urging the community to transform frustration into action. He outlined core priorities, including the release of hostages, protection of free speech and due process in Armenia, and the defense of Armenia's territorial integrity. His message was clear. The stakes are high, and everyone has a role to play.
5 years ago, the genocidal campaign began. It was met with silence from the world. We realized, as a board and as the ANC Eastern Region team, that the only thing we could do was stand up and be present, because this work is the beginning of political action that will change governmental behavior and create policy and action. But the other thing it does, and you all are key advocates and ambassadors for this, is politicize our community. We cannot stay absent or reluctantly engaged. We have to dive into the next level. Our right to exist as a nation is being challenged, both as the Republic of Armenia and as was challenged to the Republic of Artsakh. And in reality, the challenge is against the diaspora too. Do we stand for the release of the hostages? Absolutely. Do we stand for due process in Armenia, for voices of dissidence and disagreement and free discourse? Absolutely. Do we stand for the territorial integrity of Armenia? Absolutely. Should other nations come to the defense of that because it's right? Absolutely. Should our cultural heritage sites, which are not just ours, but the richness of humanity and Christianity and culture and society and civilization, be protected? Not just because they're ours, but because they're a rich accounts of whole world history? Absolutely. Should those messages resonate beyond our community? I think they do. And we need to take advantage of that.
ANCA Eastern Region Board Member and Chair of the Gala Committee, Sosi Burujan, introduced the recipients of the organization's highest honor, the Freedom Award.
The ANCA Eastern Region Freedom Award is our organization's highest honor, presented to individuals and institutions whose dedication and vision have advanced the sovereignty and security of the Armenian people. This evening, we proudly present it to the Congressional Armenian Caucus in recognition of 30 years of principled bipartisan advocacy for justice and human rights for Armenians worldwide. Today, under the leadership of Representatives Frank Pallone, Gus Bilirakis, Brad Sherman, and David Valadeo, the caucus continues to embody bipartisan cooperation on issues central to the Armenian cause. In response, the administration pledged to press both Yerevan and Baku to facilitate the return of Armenians to Artsakh, to monitor trials of Armenian detainees, and to protect Armenian cultural heritage sites. A tangible result of the caucus's leadership and persistent engagement.
Congressional Armenian Caucus co-chair Brad Sherman accepted the award on behalf of the caucus, highlighting its evolution from genocide recognition to current priorities like enforcing Section 907, ensuring the safe return of Artsakh Armenians, pushing for the release of hostages held in Baku.
When you don't acknowledge a genocide, when you engage in genocide denial, that is the last step of a genocide. First, a people is obliterated, and then their memory is obliterated. But also, genocide denial is the first step in the next genocide. And all of you are aware of how Hitler was able to convince the men around him that they could get away with it by pointing to what had happened in the first genocide of the 20th century. We're now focused on other issues as well. Enforcing Section 907 of the Freedom of Support Act, and in providing that the people of Artsakh are able to return in safety and in dignity to their homes and that the hostages being held in Baku are released. The United States should not be providing military aid to the Azerbaijani dictatorship. We said that in 1992. We put it in 907. But unfortunately, there's a waiver. So last month, I forced a vote in our committee to strip out that waiver and to say executive branch has been misusing it for decades. It's time to end the waiver.
Sherman closed by underscoring the importance of protecting democratic values in Armenia, especially freedom of speech and the rights of dissent. One of the evening's highlights was the presentation of the inaugural Service and Spirit Award, given by the ANCA Eastern Region to honor extraordinary dedication rooted in Armenian faith, identity, and intergenerational commitment. Chris Hakimian, treasurer of the ANCA Endowment, introduced Dean Shahinian as a distinguished public servant and dedicated Armenian American, highlighting his role in major financial reform laws and his deep community impact through support for youth leadership, education, and Armenian heritage, including sponsoring 5 khachkars across the U.S. In his acceptance remarks, Shahinian recounted how a simple donation request from the Central for Christian Study in Charlottesville led to his khachkar initiative, creating opportunities to share Armenian heritage across Virginia, California, and Wisconsin. Shahinian emphasized the importance of community recognition.
I praise you for honoring individuals because in our community, you don't get tax deductions for them, you don't get Washington Post generally, but we can praise each other for the good things we do.
Nairi Diratsuyan, ANCA Eastern Region's Legislative Affairs Director, introduced the Lemkin Institute for Genocide Prevention, praising its moral clarity in naming the Artsakh genocide and calling the award a promise that those facing genocide will never stand alone.
Tonight is more than a moment of reflection. It is a pledge renewed. A pledge to continue to rise with courage, to defend truth, and to demand justice, even when confronted with denial and indifference. It is in that spirit that the Armenian National Committee of America Eastern Region proudly presents the inaugural Global Genocide Prevention Award, an award that honors those who advance the cause of prevention, accountability, and justice for all peoples facing genocide and mass atrocity. Founded on the conviction that never again must truly mean never again for anyone, the Lemkin Institute has worked to prevent genocide before it unfolds, to document atrocity as it happens, and to demand accountability where others remain silent. Their work, anchored in moral clarity and guided by a global framework for genocide prevention, has reminded us that accountability is not optional. It is the cornerstone of justice and the safeguard of humanity. When the Artsakh genocide unfolded before our very eyes, when an entire population was blockaded, starved, and forcibly displaced, the Lemkin Institute acted with unwavering moral courage. With unflinching clarity, they named the crime of genocide.
Dr. Elisa von Joden-Forge accepted the award, highlighting the challenges of genocide prevention today. She reflected on the Artsakh tragedy, calling it one of the most preventable genocides in recent history. She dedicated the award to the people of Artsakh, especially those still held hostage in Baku, and pledged the Lemkin Institute's continued commitment to Armenian sovereignty and justice.
All the evidence of genocidal threat was there, and the entities that could prevent it had the necessary diplomatic and economic leverage to do so for Azerbaijan and to enforce prevention, and they did not. The Artsakh genocide, and don't let anyone tell you that it was not a genocide, it conforms fully to Raphael Lemkin's own conceptualization of genocide, is one of the most catastrophic moral failures of modern history, especially since prevention would have cost so little in effort, money, and reputation for those preventing it. But I would like to dedicate this award then to the people of Artsakh, particularly those who are still being held hostage in Baku.
The 2025 ANCA Eastern Region Vahan Kardashian Award honored two lifelong advocates of the Armenian cause, Garo Armenian and Paul Jamushian. Hraç Najarian introduced Jamushian, highlighting his journey from the AYF to decades of U.S. government service and grassroots activism in California and Virginia.
In every role, whether engaging lawmakers, mentoring youth, or serving in the church, Paul has led with humility, purpose, and deep love for his people. And tonight, along with fellow Vahan Kardashian Award recipient Garo Armenian, he accepts this honor on behalf of all of those in the service of Haitad, past and present, who have labored to secure justice for our people.
In his remarks, Paul Jamushian urged stronger congressional advocacy, citing his government experience and praising Representatives Jim Costa and David Valadeo for supporting Armenian issues. Costa also issued a certificate of achievement in Jamushian's honor, presented by legislative aide and ANCA alumni Alexa Fox. ANCA Executive Director Aram Hamparian introduced Garo Armenian as a foundational figure in modern Armenian advocacy.
Unger Garo, a great teacher, a patient mentor, a quiet leader, a humble servant. In a word, Meg Parov, a Dashnak Sagan.
Hamparian described Garo Armenian as a founding architect of modern Armenian advocacy, helping build a global network of Armenian national committees across 6 continents. Armenian accepted the award in honor of all soldiers of Haitad, young and old, known and unknown.
Unger Paul and I each have decided to accept this award, this prestigious award, in the name of also all soldiers of Haitad. Haitad is the Armenian equivalent of Armenian cause. Young and old, known and unknown, dedicated to the cause of justice.
Armenian warned of renewed threats from Azerbaijani and Turkish aggression.
Today, once again, Armenia is faced with the life and death issues posed by Azerbaijani and Turkish aggression. The pan-Turkic rhetoric is not just rhetoric anymore. It is a real threat to Armenia. And of course, it is an imminent threat to regional and world security. Once again, the US is called to play a pivotal role in Armenia's destiny, and ANCA will be there to deliver the genuine input of Armenian Americans and their coalition partners nationwide. I am 90 this year. And I'm not retiring. Because we are far from finished. Neither is Unger Paul. No one will leave the front lines of this battle for justice for as long as we have unfinished business at hand. That's what Kardashian dedicated himself to, and that's what this award is all about. Thank you all from the bottom of my heart. God bless you all and all those serving the Armenian cause. Thank you.
The evening highlighted ANCA's youth development programs as a cornerstone of its long-term impact. Eastern Region Board member Areni Markosyan emphasized the lasting effect of initiatives like the Leo Sarkisian Internship and Maral Milkonyan Fellowship, calling them investments that compound in impact. The gala recognized the 4 Eastern Region participants in the 2025 ANCA Leo Sarkisian Internship. Arsen Markarov, chair of the Capital Gateway Program Advisory Committee, called the Capital Gateway Program a launching pad for young Armenian Americans, helping them rise in public service and policy by opening doors and amplifying their voices. ANCA Eastern Region and National Board member Zovinar Hamakordzian closed the evening by reaffirming ANCA's commitment to the Armenian people, vowing to continue the fight for justice, freedom, and unity until every Armenian lives freely in their homeland and every prisoner returns home.
At a time when so many have chosen silence, the ANCA has remained steadfast, fighting for the release of our prisoners, for the right of the displaced, and for the return of our brothers and sisters of Artsakh to their homes with safety and dignity. Let us be honest, the road ahead is not easy. The odds are steep and the challenges immense. But our resolve is stronger because we know what it is at stake: lives, families, and the very soul of our nation. Our people in Artsakh suffered unspeakable hardship: blockade, starvation, genocide. And the world turned around. ANCA did not. We stood firm. We became their voice. We speak for those who cannot speak. We fight for those who cannot fight. And we stand for those whom even their own government has abandoned.
Throughout the evening, guests took part in a vibrant silent auction showcasing over 50 items celebrating Armenian culture and generosity. Proceeds from the gala support youth leadership, civic engagement, and efforts to strengthen Armenia's sovereignty and justice for Artsakh. We are now joined by Sosi Burugian, chair of the 19th ANCA Eastern Region Gala Committee. Ms. Burugian is a member of the ANCA Eastern Region Board, as well as a member of the ARF Eastern Region Central Committee. Welcome, Ms. Burugian.
Thank you, Ani. Great to be here.
Let's begin by helping our viewers understand what is the ANCA Eastern Region Gala, and why is it such an important event for the Armenian American community?
The ANCA Eastern Region Gala brings together hundreds of community leaders, elected officials, and grassroots advocates each year in a powerful display of our community's unwavering commitment to the Armenian cause. As the region's largest annual fundraiser, the Gala sustains our essential advocacy efforts across 36 local ANCs in 31 states. Funds raised through the Gala directly support the Eastern Region's mission to ensure the Armenian American voice is heard at the local, state, and federal levels, defending our rights, preserving our heritage, and advancing the cause of justice. Beyond fundraising, the Gala is a tribute of Haitad activism and the tireless dedication of our advocates. Each year, as the Gala travels to a new community, it offers a special opportunity to recognize the work of local activists and honor the service of our seasoned Haitad leaders. While we present our traditional awards annually, we also create new honors that reflect the unique spirit and character of each host community, making every gala a meaningful reflection of Haitad activism across the Eastern region.
The ANCA Eastern Region has placed a strong emphasis on empowering young Armenians to take an active role in advancing the Armenian cause. How does the region engage and invest in youth?
The Eastern region places a very strong emphasis on empowering youth. We actively encourage and recruit Armenians from across our communities to participate in ANCA's Washington, D.C. based programs, and we are proud to provide financial support for participants from the Eastern region to take part in the Leo Sarkisian internship. Upon their completion of the internship and when they return home, we work closely with them to ensure sustained engagement, whether that be through their local ANC chapters, the development of their leadership skills, and participation in advocacy days, and just ongoing involvement in all of our regional initiatives. These young activists represent the future leaders of our cause, and it is our responsibility to ensure they remain supported, engaged, and inspired to continue their advocacy work.
In tonight's newscast, we highlighted the inspiring messages and achievements of the Gala's award recipients. Can you share why their contributions are especially meaningful for the Armenian community today? For example, the Lemkin Institute of Genocide Prevention received an award. Why was it important to honor them?
Honoring the Lemkin Institute for Genocide Prevention is meaningful for the Armenian community as their work reflects the very principles at the heart of our struggle: truth, accountability, and justice. Through their monitoring of atrocities and calls for global action, the Institute has shown moral courage, which resonates with Armenians worldwide. At a time when our people face denial, displacement, and threats to our homeland, the Lemkin Institute has stood with us, issuing alerts, advocating for the displaced, and demanding accountability for perpetrators. Honoring them affirms that the fight against genocide is urgent, universal, and requires unwavering commitment. Their work reminds us that recognition, prevention, and justice are inseparable, and that the Armenian cause is part of a broader global effort to ensure such crimes never happen again.
Finally, while the gala is a special night, ANCA's work goes on throughout the year. How can community members stay engaged and support the mission beyond this event?
There are many ways community members can stay engaged throughout the year, starting locally by joining their ANC chapter, where they can take part in community mobilization efforts, supporting the passage of local and state resolutions, and by attending town halls and workshops to stay informed and connected. Engagement then naturally extends to the federal level by responding to ANC action alerts and contacting members of Congress to advocate for our priorities. Those that are ready to take their activism even further can represent their local ANC by meeting with members of Congress at our annual Advocacy Days in Washington, D.C., or during August recess in their local communities. And to help us continuously expand these programs, supporters can participate in the ANCA Eastern Region's online Christmas auction, shopping for Christmas presents, all while supporting Haitut, which will go live after Thanksgiving. Each of us has a role to play. We do not have the luxury of complacency. Every action, big or small, strengthens our collective voice and moves the Armenian cause forward.
We remind our viewers that our guest tonight is member of the ANCA Eastern Region Board, Chair of the 19th ANCA Eastern Region Gala Committee, Sosi Burujan. Thank you, Ms. Burujan.
Thank you, Ani.
That's all for tonight's broadcast. Thank you for joining, and don't forget to follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and X. Good night.